Alrighty, I've got 11 a.m. on my clock, so we will go ahead and get started. This is the special Saturday edition of the live briefing covering a coastal storm that will start to bring impacts to our area later today and continue into potentially early next week. So, before I get started with the presentation, the slideshow itself, I did want to give you guys kind of a situation overview of where we're sitting right now this morning. So I'll pull over the map here, and this morning, this low here off of Georgia, South Carolina, Florida. This is what we're going to be watching over the next 48 to 72 hours or so. So this is the low in question. Later today, it'll continue to strengthen and gradually move northward towards our area. Maybe skim the coast of North Carolina, and then going into Monday and Tuesday, that's when we'll start to say goodbye to it as high pressure builds in behind it. As far as what the radar looks like at this moment, we've got a few scattered, isolated light showers starting to build into our area, but as you can see, the bulk of the rain is still to our south. So that's where we stand right now, and I'm going to get moving with the slideshow here. All right, so first impact I want to talk about is the rain. So this is our current forecast. Along coastal areas is where we're looking at seeing the most rain. And right now we're looking at 1.5 to 2 inches. This is a slight downward trend from what we were forecasting yesterday. But I do want to give you guys kind of an idea of some of the different scenarios as it pertains to rain. And how that'll affect how much actually falls. So I'm going to show you one of our high resolution models here, the HRRR to be exact. And I don't want you to get too hung up on the specifics and the exact placement of rain or whatnot. I'm more just looking at the overall pattern of what we're expecting here. So going into this afternoon and evening is when that rain shield starts to move into our area from the south and southeast. And then later tonight into early tomorrow morning is when that heavier rain really makes it into our area. And this is where we're going to start to see some discrepancies in the models as far as how fast this stuff moves out of here. So one potential scenario is that this heavier band of rain kind of gets hung up on our area, and that's how we'll end up with higher totals versus what some of the models are depicting is having that heavier rain moving out quicker and returning back to that scattered to isolated light shower kind of mode by tomorrow evening. So that variation in scenarios is where we're getting some differences in the rainfall forecast. Just to give you an idea of what kind of spread we're looking at, so pull up a couple different scenarios here. So this is the high-res ensemble forecast. We're just now getting into a good range from that model. This is only through Sunday at 8 p.m., but that does cover the bulk of the rain. So this is a pretty good picture here. So this is the mean or the average from the HRF, and it lines up pretty well with our forecast, having that 1.5 or so to 2 inches along the coast, tapering off as you head west. That lines up pretty well with our official forecast. Now, if that heavier band of rain moves through quicker, we could end up with something more like this 10th percentile, or this is what we typically use as like a low end amount. And in that kind of scenario, we're looking at maybe around an inch at the highest, still at the coast there, and less than an inch elsewhere. But on the other end of that spectrum is what we call our reasonable worst case scenario, and that's going to be closer to like the 90th percentile. And that would be a scenario where that heavier band sticks around a little longer, in which case we'd be looking at maybe upwards of 3 inches or above in the southeast, and then widespread areas of 2 inches along the coast. Alrighty, so returning to our slideshow here, this table here kind of gives you an idea of timing, and highlights that area of late tonight into early tomorrow morning with those most widespread rain chances. So as far as potential flooding from rainfall impacts, this is separate from tidal flooding, which we'll talk about in just a couple minutes. This is the excessive rainfall outlook from the WPC, which highlights those excessive rainfall risks, the potential of flooding from heavy rainfall. So for today, and especially tonight, the area of most concern would be in that far southeast, and to a lesser extent, Hampton Roads and Tidewater and northeast North Carolina, maybe even portions of the Eastern Shore. It's going to be the focus for that tonight, and then tomorrow there's maybe a couple isolated instances of flash flooding from rainfall, again, right along the coast there. And then any lingering rainfall on Monday, we're not looking at a heavy rainfall or flooding from that. All right, so that's the rain. Let's talk about the wind a little bit. This is just kind of an overview of the wind risk. So the areas in orange are probably are the more significant risks, the elevated threat risk with 40 to 50 mile an hour wind gusts right along the coast. You can see that's going to, those winds are going to steadily pick up through the day today and peak tomorrow, which is kind of highlighted here in our forecast. Looking at the table on the right here, you can see, still pretty breezy today. And then, tonight into tomorrow is when those winds really peak. And in red here at Corolla, Ocean City, Virginia Beach, we could even see wind gusts upwards of 50 to 55 miles per hour right there along the coast, and then near the coast, but like not at the beach. We're looking at 40 to 50, probably 40 to 45-ish, closer to the coast, but not right at the water. And then elsewhere inland, still pretty breezy, but less so, around 31 miles per hour. And those gusty winds are going to continue into Monday, just not quite to the extent as what we're expecting Sunday. As such, with all of that in mind, a few headlines were issued with the overnight package. So those darker tan, I guess you could call it, color is the high wind watch for those, mostly with the immediate coastal areas in mind. Got those in a high wind watch, and then wind advisories have been put up in those lighter tan areas along the coast there. So now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Nancy, who's going to cover some of our other threats for this storm.
Good morning. So now we're going to start talking about more of the coastal flooding and marine aspects of this coastal low. So yesterday we issued high surf advisories, and these were for areas along the Atlantic coast and North Carolina, Virginia, and Maryland. So what this is for, we're expecting to see extremely large waves just due to this very hazardous marine conditions, but large breaking waves up to 10 to 15 feet are going to be in those surf zones. So this is going to be on top of the moderate to major coastal flooding that we're expecting. And with this, we are expecting significant dune and beach erosion along the beaches. And this will be Sunday and into Monday. Right now, we're going to take a dive into our coastal flooding aspect of this event, which is pretty significant impacts we're expecting here. So our coastal flood watch has been upgraded to a coastal flood warning. This will be in effect from late tonight through Sunday evening, which is when we're expecting the most impacts from the coastal flooding. During this time, we are expecting to see in all the areas highlighted in green, inundations of 1 to 3 feet above ground. So all of these areas will see at least one. Some areas might see up to 3 feet. All right, so for today through tonight, winds will start increasing pretty rapidly overnight. And with the high tide coming tonight, all of that water won't have built up quite as much yet as we're going to see tomorrow, just because it's going to be such a rapid surge. So we are expecting minor flooding in most locations. So we could see up to at least a foot possible in most vulnerable locations. The area is highlighted in orange on the left-hand map. But going into tomorrow, all of the wind with a prolonged period, we're expecting to see within 12 hours potentially a surge of almost 2 to 2.5 feet. So we have a lot of areas that are going to be in likely reach the major flood stage, especially in the James and the southeastern Virginia and areas along the eastern shore. So, and as I said previously, significant dune and beach erosion is also likely with this coastal flooding. All right. So we are expecting prolonged periods of winds with the, as Allison talked about, the peak will be tomorrow. However, this is going to be an elongated and more broad low by the time Monday comes around. And so we still will see persistent northeasterly onshore flow. So that will keep the tides elevated. A lot of areas are still going to be potentially seeing 1 to 2 feet of inundation with the high tide on Monday, and up to 1 foot in some other areas. So this will be a continual event through Monday, though we still are expecting the peak on Sunday. And the same for Tuesday. Even though winds will be coming down, we will still see that persistent onshore flow. So we could still see some minor flooding on Tuesday. All right, so now we're going to go a little bit in depth about some of the sites. We're going to start with the Upper Bay. So as you can see, from the images I just showed you, the Lower Bay is definitely going to be the most impacted in the James River. However, looks like it's come up a little bit for the Upper Bay. You can see Windmill Point is actually right on the threshold for major, and with Louisetta not far off. So we are expecting some pretty significant flooding there. So on Sunday, you can see 1 to 2 feet of inundation is possible in areas near and adjacent to the Upper Bay, with around 1 foot possible today and tonight. Heading into the Lower Bay, so this is where we saw a lot of the major impacts. So as of right now, we are, for Sewell's Point, we are predicting 6.5 feet there. So that right now is in the major category, as well as Lynn Haven is 6.3 and Yorktown is 5.8, which are both well into the major category. So for these areas, we are likely going to see inundation on Sunday of 2 to 3 feet. And I will go ahead and show you, since we're talking about Sewell's Point now. All right, so we can see here, so this is just a dynamic hydrograph for the Sewell's Point area, where the gray is almost, I wouldn't really call it uncertainty. It's just the 90 and 10, as Allison talked about, the higher and lower. So you can see our forecast is right around the 50th percentile, maybe a little bit higher, but there is still some uncertainty. You can see that, it could be as high as 7 feet or as low as 5. It's really, really dependent on the exact track, the exact wind direction, and strength of the low. So a lot of those factors can impact this. So we will continue to monitor it. We just wanted to let you know that there is still some uncertainty, just because these tidal sites are very, very responsive to any change in wind direction and wind strength. So, and timing as thinking about it, just for if the strongest surge happens at high tide, that also has an impact on it. So, all right. All right, so still in the lower bay, but going more into the James. All the stations and the James River, and as well as Smithfield, are expecting major flooding as well. So that 2 to 3 foot inundation. Something I do want to point out, though, with all of these gauges, that even the previous ones, is that you can see that even though we are expecting the peak high tide, you can see that it really is struggling to get down much farther. It goes down to moderate, potentially for multiple high tides. And that is due to the persistent onshore flow that we talked about earlier. So it's just, since we are expecting elevated winds and onshore, it just kind of creates this buildup of water, and it has nowhere to go. So tides are going to remain elevated. So, all right. And lastly, we'll take a look at the ocean sites. So these are areas in Duck, Chincoteague, and Ocean City. As of right now, we are expecting, again, around 1 foot tonight as the winds start really increasing with the high tide overnight. And then by tomorrow, we are expecting the moderate to major coastal flooding. So the 2 to 3 feet of inundation. And as I said previously, this can change just with ever so slightly a different track of the low. So, but this is our forecast as of now. And one thing I did want to go into, just because I know we had a question yesterday about the Currituck Sound and any type of blowout. So this is, so we don't actually have a forecast for this gauge, but what I wanted to show you is that you can see over the past few days, we have had more of like a small craft onshore flow, so maybe 20 to 25 knots at the greatest, with maybe a few brief higher times with a cold front that moved through. So you can see that with the northeasterly winds that we did have the area, the coastal or the Currituck Sound blowing out. So with this in mind, just kind of put it into perspective, we're for the areas we're expecting gale to storm force winds. So 34 to 48 knots. So this will be probably we will likely see a decent amount of blowout in the Currituck Sound as these winds really ramp up. So, all right. Okay. So now going on to the marine hazards. All of the watches, the gale watches and the storm watches, have been upgraded to a storm warning and gale warning. So for the storm warning, that is now in effect for all of the Virginia and Maryland coastal waters, as well as the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. And for the gale warning, we've got all of our other waters, such as the NC coastal waters and rivers and the remainder of the bay. So what we're expecting with the areas highlighted in purple, or the storm warning, is going to be 35 to 45 knots of sustained winds, with gusts of up to 50 knots or greater. And for the gale warning, is going to be the 25 to 35 knots with gusts of 45 knots. And we'll go a little bit more in depth into seas in the next few slides. So the timing of these is this evening. So that's when the winds are going to start ramping up, and this is going to last likely through Monday. So this is the marine threat potential over the next few days. Of course, we're going to have pretty extreme conditions starting tonight and lingering through Monday. By Tuesday, we will start seeing the winds start to relax. However, we're still going to have those lingering seas and potentially some gusts, still 34 knots or greater. So it will be a pretty prolonged event for hazardous marine conditions. By Wednesday, they'll continue to relax further. So, but those seas are going to take a little bit to come down just because they're going to be pretty big. So, all right. So looking at this is our max wind gust through 72 hours. So you can see areas potentially reaching 50 to 55 knots in the coastal waters, and anywhere between 40 to 50 knots in the Chesapeake Bay. As said previously, the timing is going to be from tonight with the highest winds through early Monday morning. Especially after midnight, winds really start ramping up, and they quickly increase. So this is the time frame that we are definitely most concerned about in terms of marine hazards. So, and then as you can see, the elevated winds on Monday, they still persist. Even these are gusts, but they do persist through most of Monday. This is might be a little hard to see, but it's just kind of an overview of what's coming in the next week. So you can see this is our area of concern, even through Monday night. So on the top is going to be your sustained winds. But by Tuesday, you're going to start seeing as the low pulls away, you're going to start seeing winds start to decrease, although they still will remain elevated in the 15 to 20 knot range, increasing potentially again by Thursday, but nowhere near the magnitude that we're expecting for when this low is in the area. All right, for seas, and it's going to be the same, roughly same time period. The seas are going to be build pretty rapidly, and so we're expecting in the coastal waters anywhere between 12 to 18 feet. That is a significant wave height, so that's one every 5 minutes or less. But something that's important to note is by the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, which is roughly in the mouth of the bay, very close to it, you're going to have periods where you might see 8 feet. So that is very significant. So in Cape Henry, right off the mouth of the bay, you're going to see up to 12. So these are very, very hazardous marine conditions. So, and then occasional wave height you could see, which is roughly one every 20 to 30 minutes, you could see 20 to 25 foot waves out there. So going again, talking about the occasional wave height. So on the left is going to be our significant wave height, which is the one that happens more frequently. But even in the bay, our occasional wave height, you could see anywhere between 8 to 12 feet, with the highest coming at the mouth of the bay. And then in the coastal waters, anywhere between 18 to 20, 24, 25 feet. So very, very hazardous marine conditions expected tonight and tomorrow, lingering through Monday. And this is just one quick way to look at how quickly the wave heights are going to increase. So we have over here a Hansen plot, and I'm going to focus on this one right here so you can see just how quickly the waves do build. So this is by Sunday in the morning. Sunday's right here. So this is by Sunday, they'll have built to almost 14 feet. And this is for the Cape Henry to Cape Charles area. And then lastly, how they're going to linger. So they're definitely not going to drop off really that quickly because of that prolonged wind event that we're expecting. All right, so I'm just going to kind of leave this up here for you guys as we take questions. This is just an overview of what we've talked about today. So please let us know if you have any questions.